Video will show you the basic technique to installing a pre-hung door, and also at the beginning I'm going to show you how to remove the door trim without damaging it in the event that you want to reuse the door trim. The first step is to remove the door by pulling the pins from the hinges. Next, you need to cut the caulking and the paint so that it won't pull back and tear the wall. Make sure you're very careful about keeping your offhand clear of the blade. Use both hands on the knife so that you don't have an accident. You need to do both sides. Next, you're going to use a stiff putty knife and wiggle it a little bit to get the wood to release. You're going to use 2 pry bars and alternately work your way down a little bit at a time. Just leapfrog them down slowly. It'll take several passes. Just work it a little more with each pass. And if you place the levers next to the nails, it minimizes the chances of the wood breaking. Typically up in the corners there'll be a small finishing nail connecting the 2 boards. It'll be at like a 45-degree angle. So you just need to be careful when you're disconnecting the very end. Then you go along and remove any nails that were left in the wall. Now there's some shims and nails that are attaching the door frame to it. You can use a hacksaw blade on a reciprocating saw. You just go through and cut those. Then you remove the old frame, pull out the nails and shims. Then you remove the new door from the new frame and then sit it in place. And you're just doing a test fit here. You want to check to see if your opening is big enough and square and plumb. Check the level at the top. You want to have the hinge side a little higher than the doorknob side. If your opening is a little wider and you need to take up some space, what I do is I mark where the hinges are because that's where I'm going to put my screws. And you install a block in there depending on how much space you're trying to take up. This is only if you have too much room. I do them right where the hinges are. Then I lift my door jamb up by just placing a shim underneath the bottom to raise it up a tiny bit. Then remove the door hinges. Now the shims are tapered, and if you put them opposite each other, it will produce a square space. And if you slide them together, it gets fatter, and if you push them apart, it gets thinner. So you can adjust the spacing. Now you want to make sure you check the plumbness after every step. Now with this door, my studs are canted a little bit at an angle, and so they're not square with the room. So I'm putting them in at an angle, so that they're angled to compensate for the out of square stud. If the studs are square, then you'll put the shims opposite each other so that it's square. And I drill a pilot hole and then put a 2.5 inch screw in. And I do the middle of the door jamb first. That way, if my wall is out of plumb, I can split the difference so that my door jamb isn't sticking out too far on top or at the bottom. This way it splits the difference so that it's minimized when you do the trim. When you put the shims in, you want to do them a little bit more, because a little bit thicker, because when you put the screw in, it pulls it in tight and sucks in a little bit. Then I'm going to check the level and make sure that I can raise this side up to get it square. And you can cut off those shims and reinstall the door hinges. Go ahead and install the door at this point, because you're going to use the door to square up the rest of the door jamb. Here's where you're going to check your squareness, check the spacing around the door, and you're going to raise the door jamb up with some shims to get it square. And then you want to close the door till it just touches, and then slide it over so that it's even with so that the wall is even with the door jamb. And then hold it there still. I've already got my spacing here, so I'm going to drill a pilot hole and then install a screw. Check the plumbness as you're going with the door, closing the door. So you adjust the bottom to meet the door. Go ahead and shim the middle near where the doorknob is going to be. Always check each step. Check it. It's easy to go back and repair it if you haven't gotten too far along in the process and you have to make a correction. That's the advantage with using screws as opposed to nails. You can make adjustments as you go. You go through and just double check everything. You push the door a little bit just to make sure it doesn't, if it's plumb, it shouldn't swing either way, open or closed. It should just stop. the rest of your shims. And you're done. You're ready for the trim. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can check out some of my other videos.